The Journey into Life, the Story of the Cell. Chapter 1, The Hidden World Within. The story begins not in a distant galaxy or a deep ocean trench, but in the most overlooked place imaginable, within you, within every living thing. It starts at a scale so small that it escapes the naked eye, a world so intricate and bustling that it makes the greatest cities look still. This is the story of cells. For centuries, humans looked at their hands, their pets, the trees, and the stars without realizing that every living thing around them was built from invisible living units. Then, under the lens of the first microscopes in the 1600s, Robert Hooke looked at a slice of cork and saw something extraordinary: thousands of tiny chambers. He called them cells, after the Latin word cellular, meaning small rooms. He couldn't have known that these small rooms were not just structures. They were alive. The spark of life in a microscopic room. Every cell is a self-contained universe of life, a boundary of order in a sea of chaos. Each one is wrapped in a thin membrane, like a delicate skin, that separates self from not self. Inside this membrane hums a city of activity. Floating in its jello-like interior, the cytoplasm, are countless structures called organelles, each with a job to do. The nucleus, the command center, holds the DNA, the instructions for life. The mitochondria, power stations of the cell, break down nutrients to produce energy. The ribosomes, tiny factories, assemble proteins from amino acids. The endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus, the highways and post offices, process and ship proteins to where they are needed. Lysosomes, the recyclers, break down waste and old components for reuse. And in plant cells, the chloroplasts, green and glimmering, turn sunlight into food through photosynthesis. Even the simplest single cell performs more complex chemistry in a second than a human factory can manage in a day. This whirl of organized chaos, is life. The universal truth. As scientists explored further, a startling truth emerged. All living things are made up of cells. From the mightiest whale to the smallest mushroom spore, from the oak tree to the human heart, every living organism is built from these microscopic bricks of life. Some creatures are made of trillions of cells, each one specialized for a task. Others, like the bacteria swimming in a droplet of water, consist of just one. But whether alone or part of a vast community, every cell breathes, consumes, reacts, grows, and reproduces. Each cell carries the essence of life itself, the ability to transform energy, maintain order, and evolve. The journey begins, meeting a single cell. Imagine peering through a microscope for the first time. In a tiny droplet of pond water, invisible to the naked eye, you see motion, swirling, darting, flickering. One shape catches your attention. A small green oval, gliding smoothly through the water. Its name, Euglena. It's neither purely animal nor plant. It swims like a creature, using a wood-like flagellum, yet it also carries chloroplasts, harvesting sunlight to make its own food. Another form tumbles by, a paramecium, covered in hair-like cilia, rowing through its microscopic world. Inside it, vacuoles pulse rhythmically, like a beating heart, keeping the cell's water balance steady. Nearby, an amoeba creeps forward, changing shape with every move. It engulfs food by wrapping itself around its prey, a process called phagocytosis, cell eating. These are single-cell organisms, the pioneers of life's complexity. Each one, living, eating, and reproducing entirely on its own, without organs, limbs, or nerves. They are proof that life can thrive even in its simplest form. A living universe in a drop of water. As you watch, you begin to see a pattern: cooperation, competition, survival. The pond water teems with life, every cell busy with purpose. Some drift peacefully, photosynthesizing in sunlight. Others hunt. Some divide, splitting into two perfect copies, ensuring the continuation of their kind. Each single cell is a story of resilience, evolution, and adaptation. They are the foundation from which all multicellular life evolved. Everything, from your own beating heart to the towering redwoods, began here, with a single cell that learned how to live. Chapter 2: The Great Division. The miracle of division. In the microscopic world, life's most astonishing act is not survival, it's replication. Imagine a single cell, small enough to fit 1,000 times across the width of a hair. Inside it hums a perfect balance, nutrients flowing, DNA coiled neatly, organelles spinning like clockwork. But eventually, this tiny being reaches a moment of truth. To continue life, it must become two. This process, called cell division, is the heartbeat of existence. It is how life repairs, grows, and renews itself. Every living creature, from a blade of grass to a human child, owes its being to an unbroken chain of cells dividing, perfectly and precisely, for billions of years. There are two primary ways this happens. Mitosis, the elegant choreography where a single cell makes an exact copy of itself, essential for growth and repair. Meiosis, the special division used to create reproductive cells, ensuring variety and evolution across generations. Both are acts of life's continuity, yet they are also acts of controlled chaos. Within each, DNA, the delicate instruction manual of existence, must be copied perfectly. One wrong letter, one misplaced strand, can change everything. The poetry and peril of mitosis. Let's zoom in on a human cell preparing to divide. At first, it quietly gathers resources, proteins, sugars, and molecules needed for the monumental task ahead. Then, like a scholar preparing a manuscript, it duplicates its DNA so that both new cells will inherit the complete blueprint. Inside the nucleus, the DNA coils into visible chromosomes, and the machinery of division begins. Prophase, chromosomes tighten, the nucleus dissolves, and tiny fibers called spindles start to form. Metaphase, the chromosomes line up neatly across the center of the cell, a breathtaking alignment of order. Anaphase, the fibers pull each chromosome apart into two identical sets. Telophase and cytokinesis, two new nuclei form, and the cell pinches in half, two new cells, perfect mirrors of their parent, each ready to live. Billions of times a day, this quiet miracle happens inside you. It is how your skin heals after a scrape, how your bones mend, how your body renews every part of itself. It is a dance choreographed by nature with exquisite precision. When the dance goes wrong, the birth of cancer. But what happens when a dancer misses a step? Cell division requires strict control, like traffic lights in a city. Every cell knows when to grow, when to divide, and when to stop. Specialized genes, the cell cycle regulators, act as guardians, ensuring balance. Sometimes, though, mutations in the DNA, from radiation, chemicals, or random chance, damage these regulatory genes. A once obedient cell becomes reckless. It ignores the signals to stop dividing. It keeps growing, consuming, pushing past its boundaries. This is how cancer begins. A cancer cell is, in a sense, a rebel, a cell that refuses to obey the laws of cooperation. While normal cells divide for the greater good of the organism, cancerous cells divide only for themselves. They become selfish, immortal, spreading and consuming until the body they inhabit weakens. In the smallest tragedy of biology, a cell's quest for endless life becomes the reason for death. Yet even in this, there's knowledge. Studying how cancer grows has taught scientists more about life than almost any other disease. Through understanding chaos, we better understand the fragile order that keeps us alive. The rise of cooperation, from one to many. Now imagine a time long before animals, before plants, a world ruled by single-celled life. For billions of years, life existed only as individuals floating alone. But then, something extraordinary happened. Some cells began to cooperate. Instead of separating completely after division, they stayed together, communicating, sharing, and eventually specializing. This was the dawn of multicellular life. At first, these were simple colonies, clusters of identical cells working as one. But over time, certain cells began to take on specific roles. Some gathered nutrients. Others focused on movement. Some protected the group from harm. Through this cooperation, life took its first steps toward complexity. The symphony of specialization. As evolution continued, this division of labor deepened. Cells began to express only the parts of DNA needed for their specific job. In humans today, you carry over 200 different types of cells, all descended from a single fertilized egg, yet each performs a distinct role. Neurons carry electric messages that let you think and feel. Muscle cells contract to let you move. Red blood cells ferry oxygen to every corner of your body. Immune cells defend against invaders. Skin cells shield and renew. It is a harmony so profound that your body, though made of trillions of independent living units, acts as one organism, you. Each heartbeat, each breath, each thought, is the symphony of countless cells, dividing, living, and dying in perfect rhythm. The endless chain of life. When you think of a single cell now, drifting in a pond or dividing in your body, remember this: every cell is both ancient and new. The energy flowing through it has passed from the first spark of life billions of years ago to you. The atoms in your cells once danced in stars, and the life within you is part of an unbroken story, a chain of division that has never once failed since the dawn of time. Chapter 3: The Green Architects of Life. A forest in miniature. The journey now turns toward the quiet giants of our world, plants. To the casual eye, they seem still, silent, almost lifeless compared to animals. Yet beneath the surface of every leaf and stem, there is a world alive with movement and purpose, a world of plant cells, the architects of oxygen, energy, and color. Imagine plucking a single green leaf from a tree and placing a thin, almost transparent slice of it under a microscope. At first, you see tiny, orderly shapes, like rows of bricks in a living wall. But look closer, and the illusion of stillness vanishes. Inside each cell, you can see faint movement, a shimmering dance of particles and organelles swirling in slow, graceful motion. This is cytoplasmic streaming, the gentle circulation of a cell's internal contents. The chloroplasts, small green discs, drift through the cytoplasm, catching light as they move, like lanterns floating down a river. This constant motion distributes nutrients, moves energy, and keeps the cell alive. In that moment, you realize something profound: the leaf is not still. It is alive, breathing, and moving, just too slowly for the human eye to see without magnification. The builders of sunlight. Plant cells are among nature's greatest inventions. Like animal cells, they contain a nucleus to hold DNA, mitochondria to generate energy, and ribosomes to build proteins. But they also possess special structures that set them apart, tools that allow them to stand tall, grow toward sunlight, and feed nearly every living thing on Earth. Let's explore what makes a plant cell unique. Cell wall. Unlike animal cells, which are flexible and soft, plant cells are surrounded by a rigid wall made of cellulose. This wall gives plants their shape, strength, and the ability to grow skyward without bones or muscles. Chloroplasts. These are the green jewels of the plant world. Inside them lies chlorophyll, a pigment that captures sunlight. Through photosynthesis, plants use sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide to produce glucose, food, and release oxygen as a byproduct. Every breath we take is a gift from these green factories. Large central vacuole. This massive, fluid-filled chamber stores water, nutrients, and waste. It also helps maintain pressure, keeping the plant upright and firm, like air in a balloon holding its shape. Every plant cell is a small engine of balance, capturing light, building sugar, and giving life back to the world through oxygen. The hidden movement of light. If you were to record the leaf cells under time-lapse, you'd see a mesmerizing ballet. Chloroplasts drift around, shifting position to capture more sunlight or hide from too much of it. The entire cell adjusts to protect itself while maximizing energy collection. It's as if each cell knows its role in a larger system, each one contributing a small act to the great symphony of growth. The sunlight striking your window in the morning, the fresh air in your lungs, the grain that becomes your bread, all of it exists because of this quiet choreography within plant cells. The bridge between green and flesh. Now, compare these green builders to the cells of animals, including humans. Though their outward appearances differ, their core blueprints are remarkably similar. Both plant and animal cells share a cell membrane that controls what enters and leaves, a nucleus that holds genetic instructions in the form of DNA, mitochondria, the powerhouses, converting fuel into energy, endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes, and Golgi apparatus that produce, fold, and ship proteins. Cytoplasm, the jello-like interior where all this action takes place. This shared structure is no coincidence. It's a reflection of a common ancestor, a single ancient cell that, billions of years ago, gave rise to all forms of complex life. The difference between a plant's leaf and your skin cell is not one of origin, but of evolutionary choice. Plant cells chose sunlight as their sustenance, growing firm and still. Animal cells chose motion, consuming instead of producing, relying on what plants create. In this way, the green and the breathing worlds are deeply intertwined, one cannot exist without the other. The Great Partnership. Every inhale you take is a whisper of that ancient connection. The oxygen in your lungs was born inside a plant's chloroplast. The energy in your muscles once came from sugars a leaf created under the sun. When you exhale carbon dioxide, the plants breathe it back in. It is a partnership older than memory, a continuous cycle between green cells and animal cells, exchanging breath for light, carbon for life. The discovery of plant cells was not merely the study of plants, it was a revelation about unity. That the living world, in all its shapes and forms, is woven from the same thread, the cell. Each kind, whether in leaf or lung, performs its role so that the greater tapestry of life may continue. Chapter 4: The Web of Life. The Power of Connection. By now, you've seen that a single cell is capable of astonishing things: breathing, eating, reproducing, and even transforming sunlight into energy. But the greatest miracle of all happens when these tiny living rooms begin to work together. A single cell can live on its own, yes, but together, cells achieve the impossible. They weave themselves into tissues, form organs, and unite as organisms, each cell performing its role while depending on its neighbors. Life, it turns out, is not just built from cells, it is cooperation made visible. From cells to tissues. Imagine looking through a microscope again, but this time not at pond water or a leaf. Now, you're looking at a thin slice of your own skin. What appears is not one type of cell, but a layered pattern, like the fabric of a tapestry. The cells at the surface are flat and tough, forming a protective shield. Beneath them are rounder cells that divide constantly, replacing those lost to time and touch. Still deeper are sensory cells that can feel, sending messages to your brain when you brush against the world. This is tissue, a community of cells working in harmony to perform a shared purpose. There are many kinds of tissues in the living world. Epithelial tissue, forming surfaces and linings, protecting the inside from the outside. Muscle tissue, made of cells that contract and move the body. Connective tissue, holding everything together like a biological glue. Nervous tissue, a lightning-fast communication web connecting thoughts and reactions. Each tissue is a society of specialized cells, each knowing its role, each giving up individuality for unity. The birth of organs. When different tissues cooperate, something even greater emerges: organs. Take the heart, for example. Within it, muscle tissue contracts to pump blood. Connective tissue provides structure. Nervous tissue keeps the rhythm steady. Blood vessels lined with epithelial cells deliver oxygen and nutrients. Each type of tissue plays a role, none can function alone, yet together they form a living machine that sustains everything else. Plants too have organs. A leaf captures light. A stem supports and transports. Roots dig deep to draw water and minerals from the soil. Each part is made of specialized tissues, just as intricate as those in animals, yet built for an entirely different life purpose. In every species, organs are the bridge between the microscopic and the visible, proof that cooperation among cells scales upward into the grand design of life itself. Communication, the silent conversation. But cooperation demands communication. How do cells, tiny, enclosed, and separate, speak to each other? The answer lies in chemical whispers. Cells send and receive signals through molecules, hormones, neurotransmitters, and chemical messengers that travel across their membranes like invisible letters. When one cell releases a signal, others respond, dividing, healing, defending, or changing their behavior as needed. This communication keeps balance within tissues and organs. If you cut your skin, nearby cells sense the injury and begin to divide, patching the wound. When you exercise, muscle cells send messages to increase blood flow and energy. When a plant faces drought, its root cells signal the leaves to close their pores and conserve water. Each cell is a voice in an endless symphony, and together, they sustain life's delicate equilibrium. Harmony and homeostasis. All living organisms, whether plant, animal, or microbe, depend on homeostasis, the ability to maintain internal stability despite external change. Cells are the guardians of this balance. They regulate temperature, water, and nutrients. They destroy invaders, repair damage, and adapt to stress. Think of your body as a vast city of trillions of citizens, each cell knowing its duty, following signals, sharing resources, cleaning up waste, and ensuring that the community survives. This coordination is not commanded by a single mind but arises from countless interactions, billions of small decisions every second. In their unity, cells create something far greater than themselves, life as a whole. The planet-sized organism. Now step back, far, far back. The forest, the ocean, the coral reef, even the field of grass outside your window, all are built upon the same principle. Cells form tissues. Tissues form organisms. And those organisms, in turn, form ecosystems, vast webs of interdependence. Plants release oxygen, animals inhale it. Animals exhale carbon dioxide, plants inhale it. Fungi and bacteria break down the fallen leaves, returning nutrients to the soil. Every organism, every cell, plays its part in a grand planetary metabolism. Earth itself behaves like one vast living organism, where each cell, each creature, each breath participates in a continuous cycle of renewal. The eternal dance. At every level, from the smallest bacterium to the largest redwood, from your heartbeat to the song of the wind in the trees, one truth remains constant. Life is built on unity. Cells, though tiny and fragile, hold within them the wisdom of the universe, the understanding that cooperation is survival, and that harmony, not chaos, gives rise to life's greatest wonders. The cell is both the beginning and the endless continuation, the builder of all that breathes, grows, and dreams. Chapter 5: The Living Planet. The world built by cells. From the soil beneath our feet to the air in our lungs, everything alive exists because of cells. These microscopic architects have shaped not just bodies, but entire ecosystems, and, over billions of years, they have built the living planet we call home. When you look at a forest, you're not just seeing trees, you're seeing trillions of plant cells harvesting sunlight, turning it into energy, building wood, bark, and leaves. When you gaze into the ocean, you're witnessing an endless bloom of microscopic algae and cyanobacteria, single-celled life forms that still generate most of Earth's oxygen. Even the soil itself is alive, filled with bacteria, fungi, and root cells all intertwined in a silent network of exchange. Earth is not merely a planet that contains life. It is life, a living, breathing web made possible by the cooperation of cells across every corner of existence. The cellular chain of survival. Life on Earth is a cycle, a loop where energy and matter flow from one cell to another in perfect continuity. Plants and algae capture sunlight, turning it into sugars and oxygen through photosynthesis. Animals consume those sugars, using oxygen to release energy and sustain movement, growth, and thought. Decomposers, fungi and bacteria, break down the remains of plants and animals, returning carbon, nitrogen, and minerals to the soil and atmosphere. The cycle begins anew, unbroken and eternal. At the heart of every step in this chain are cells performing ancient tasks, absorbing, transforming, releasing, and connecting. The entire biosphere, forests, deserts, coral reefs, tundras, depends on this cellular choreography. If even one part faltered, the balance of life would shift. It is not kings or oceans or storms that maintain life's balance, it is the unseen labor of the cell. The human connection. Humans, too, are part of this cellular story. Every meal we eat, every breath we take, is an exchange between our cells and the rest of the planets. The wheat field that becomes our bread, the apple on the tree, the air we inhale, all are born of plant cells. The microbes in our guts digest and protect us, a reminder that even within us, countless foreign cells work to keep us alive. We are not solitary beings. We are ecosystems, homes to trillions of microbial partners, living side by side in delicate balance. Our bodies are made of about 37 trillion human cells, yet we carry even more bacterial cells, invisible travelers who help digest food, build immunity, and even influence mood and thought. We are not just in the web of life. We are the web of life. Beyond Earth, the search for new cells. In recent decades, humanity has turned its gaze outward. If cells built our world, could they exist elsewhere? Could the spark of cellular life have kindled on another planet, beneath the ice of Europa, or in the clouds of Venus? Astrobiologists now search for signs of life not by looking for cities or creatures, but for the chemical fingerprints of cells, organic molecules, potential membranes, or traces of metabolism. Because to find a cell, even a primitive one, is to find life itself. The same rules that govern a bacterium in a drop of pond water might also apply in the farthest reaches of the cosmos. The story of the cell may be a universal language, written not in words, but in chemistry and energy. Humanity's next creation. But humans are not just searching for cells, we are building them. In laboratories, scientists now create synthetic cells, artificial structures that mimic the properties of life. They can self-assemble, process nutrients, and even divide. Others are editing living cells through CRISPR technology, rewriting DNA to cure diseases, grow organs, or enhance crops. For the first time in history, life is shaping life with intent. It is both wondrous and humbling, a reminder that our mastery is also our responsibility. We are the first species capable of altering the very code that connects all living things, the ancient blueprint that began in a single cell billions of years ago. The question now is not just how cells work, but what kind of world we wish to build with them. The living Earth. Look again at a forest, or a coral reef, or a single human hand. Every cell inside and around you carries a memory of the first living cell that ever existed, a spark that survived meteors, ice ages, and time itself. In the grand story of the universe, life on Earth is not an accident. It is the outcome of countless cells learning to live, grow, and share. The planet breathes because they breathe. It endures because they endure. You are made of their legacy, a cathedral of living matter, each cell a silent witness to 4 billion years of triumph. Life, from the smallest microbe to the vastness of a rainforest, is one continuous story told through cells. And that story is still being written, in your heartbeat, in the whisper of leaves, and perhaps one day, in the stars. The dawn of a new era. The story of cells began in the silence of ancient oceans, tiny flickers of life dividing and evolving, unaware that they were building the foundations of a planet. Now, billions of years later, the descendants of those same cells have built telescopes, spaceships, and microscopes powerful enough to look both inward and outward, to peer into the smallest unit of life and the farthest corners of the cosmos. Humanity stands at a threshold where biology and technology intertwine. We no longer only study life, we shape it. With every genetic edit, every artificial cell constructed in a lab, every organ grown from stem cells, we inch closer to understanding, and perhaps mastering, the forces that first gave rise to us. But in seeking mastery, we must also ask, what is the price of creation? What happens when the makers of life begin to rewrite the script of existence itself? The architects of tomorrow. Imagine a future where disease is cured before it begins, where organs can be printed from your own DNA, where forests regrow themselves, and oceans are cleaned by engineered microorganisms. Such a future is not fantasy, it is unfolding now, cell by cell. Scientists are designing synthetic organisms that can heal wounds, absorb carbon, and even glow to signal pollution. Others are working on nanocells, microscopic machines inspired by the inner workings of life, capable of repairing tissues from within. For the first time, life itself is becoming programmable. The very code that makes us human, the double helix of DNA, is no longer an untouchable mystery, but a living language we can learn to read, write, and perhaps one day, speak fluently. But if life becomes something we can shape, what does it mean to be alive? Where do we draw the line between creation and imitation? The mirror and the mystery. Every discovery brings light, but also reflection. As we gaze deeper into the structure of life, we find ourselves staring back. Cells are no longer distant subjects of study, they are our origins, our family, our reflection. The oxygen in our breath, the thoughts in our mind, the emotions in our heart, all are the result of cells working in concert. When we create new life, are we merely continuing evolution's work, or are we crossing into something unknown? When we alter DNA, are we improving nature, or interfering with it? And if we one day find life on another planet, will we see it as alien, or as a mirror of ourselves? Perhaps the greatest discovery is not how cells work, but why they do. The endless chain. Life began in a single spark, a cell dividing in the quiet darkness of the primordial world. From that moment, an unbroken chain has continued, through every species, every generation, every heartbeat. Now that chain runs through you. You are not merely a collection of cells, you are a continuation of everything that has ever lived. The atoms in your body once belonged to stars. The cells in your blood carry the wisdom of oceans long vanished. You are the sum of billions of years of survival, adaptation, and wonder. The cells inside you are alive, and in every heartbeat, they whisper the same message the first cell ever spoke. Live. Divide. Continue. Beyond the microscope. As we move into the future, the greatest question is no longer what cells are, but what they might become. Will we one day create new forms of life that think, evolve, and dream? Will we extend our reach beyond Earth, carrying the seed of life to other worlds? Or will we learn, at last, to live in harmony with the one living planet we already have? In the end, the story of the cell is the story of curiosity, the unending desire to understand where we come from and what we might become. It is a story without a final page, because life itself refuses to end. So, when you look at your hand, at a leaf, at the stars, remember this. Every part of the universe is built from something alive, something connected, something continuing. And perhaps, one day, The cells we understand today will help us unlock the next great mystery, not of biology, but of existence itself. The end.